Today on Clicks and Coffee, we're joined by Charles de Vilmorin, SVP of Resident Engagement at LifeLoop. Charles co-founded Linked Senior and joined LifeLoop after its 2024 acquisition, helping unite two leading engagement platforms now used across almost 5,000 communities and hundreds of thousands of residents. He champions evidence-based engagement and is driving LifeLoop's resident engagement initiatives. Charles, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Excited to be with you.
So today is going to be a bit of a unique one since we're both originally French, so pardon the accent, but it is what it is. So before we dive into Linked Senior and everything, I wanted to talk about your LinkedIn profile because everybody has their LinkedIn profile with their name or something like that, but yours is a little bit more unique than that. So can you tell us what is your LinkedIn URL?
You mean old people are cool?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty unique. All people are cool, and that's kind of like your badge of any communication is all people are cool. So can you tell us a little bit about like maybe a quick story about this
Yeah.
and why you have that as your LinkedIn profile and every post that you put, I know that's the tag that you use.
Yeah. I, well, one, obviously, because I believe that everyone is cool, including old people. So that's important for me. I think the story behind old people are cool, I would say, is three things. One is, I was very lucky in my family. There was just a lot of love, and I was I was never afraid of old people, so always kind of keenly open to this demographic and so on. And when I studied at Georgetown, I wrote my thesis on nursing home, and so I realized by spending time in these communities how much how much room there was to improve the way we treat elders in our society. Like how much some very often they're not really respected. The last part of life is people are very anxious about it and so on. So I think there was the second part. There was a deep realization that I wanted to do something about it, and I was kind of entrepreneurial enough to start Link Senior, but I always thought there was something missing where we would talk about old people in senior living, but it was, people always were not attracted to senior living itself, not attracted to aging itself. And I always saw this disconnect between what I felt in my heart and what a lot of people gave me in terms of feedback. So that's kind of the number two, is the formation and development of a Link Senior. And I would say the third thing is, I was visiting a university in Maine, and I saw it tagged on a, like, graffitied on a wall, right? Like old people are cool, and I was, damn, this is awesome. And so on my drive back home, I was like, I need to find a way to use it. And we made stickers, and I went to conferences, and people literally were, ripping my arm off for more, like begging more for more stickers. I think that the third part that's important to me about this tagline, this slogan, is some people were saying, you shouldn't use the word old. It's not good. You should use older adults or elders or whatever. But what I realized is our society, for a reason, probably bad, like most of it bad, has let the word old go bad. In other words, when you think about old, you sometimes people think about, you know um, not healthy or sick, not valuable, and that kind of thing. And I think that the goal of this slogan, of this initiative, is to, simply reclaim the word old, because I think it's a wonderful word. I think aging is a wonderful part of life, and aging is living. So
Yeah, and there is one thing that we love that is old is good wine. Usually, like older wine is
yes.
always like is that's usually a good sign.
No,
So
but what I find fascinating is some people, if you look at the reasons why, some people are afraid of becoming old,
Mm.
and because they think they're not going to be happy. But if you Google, there's a concept that's been proven, which is the U curve of happiness. I'm actually 46. Technically speaking, I'm at the unhappiest part of my life, and people grow happy and actually are happy at the end of their life than all the rest of their life. So there's a lot to deconstruct. But yeah, wine is also great old as well.
Exactly. No, but that was amazing, and it's funny because since I met you and follow you on LinkedIn, and you have that hashtag of everything, and I just realized this morning that it was also your LinkedIn, and it's funny because not a lot of people pay attention to their URL. I know I have
Yeah.
my name, which is like very classic, but it's like all in on senior living and resident engagement, so it's pretty cool. So now that we know that another person doing it for passion, because that's one of the, I would say, the main theme in senior living is that everybody is doing it because they care, and which is really nice, and really excited since I started to do this podcast. Everybody has a personal story about it, so kind of wanted to, you mentioned it a little bit on how you got into it, but if you don't mind, giving us a little bit about your background and how you also go to the US, because you're from France, so how you end up in the US and working in senior living and starting your own company. So it's pretty like a pretty crazy entrepreneurial journey, I would say.
Yeah, thanks. I'm very grateful for all of it. I mean, I came to the US simply because I was very intrigued and attracted by the American dream. And, obviously, I worked super hard. I worked my ass off in any time I could. But also a lot of, some part of it, I think I was lucky just in terms of timing. But what brought me to the US is the American dream. What got me started with Linked Senior is the time I spent in nursing homes and memory care when I was doing my thesis at Georgetown. And for another class, I had to come up with a business idea. And at the time, it was when Apple came out with the iPod,
Hmm.
and the slogan, this time, this dates me a little bit, but the slogan was that you could have 1,000 songs in your pocket,
Yep.
right? And so literally, I'm like, gosh, I can be entertained to death if I want to. And then there's all these people dying of boredom because nothing is happening, or not, well, yes, in many places still there's not much happening. But so there was this disconnect, and this is kind of how LinkedIn started was, how can we use technology to um, to help residents feel engaged? And I think part of your question is also about senior living. I could talk all day long about how I love senior living. I mean, obviously I'm biased. I've spent numbers of years, probably 17 or 18 years now, um, of my life in senior living. But I think that senior living is the type of industry where no one hardly ever you get up and say, I want to work there because it doesn't seem very sexy or fancy or whatever. But then people fall into it for whatever reason and they're stuck because something hooks them. And there's something about bringing purpose to older adults that's just an amazing thing to do. And yeah, so I think senior living is the best industry by far, for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so, can you tell us a little bit about um, Linked Senior? And so you sold the company to LifeLoop, and what did you insist on preserving from Linked Senior? Because you did that out of passion, and like that was something you saw that was needed. And I'm sure that you sold the company, but at the same time you joined them, so it means that there was like a great synergy. So can you tell us a little bit about that, and what you wanted to keep doing at LifeLoop, and what you liked at Linked Senior and that you keep doing at LifeLoop?
Yeah, I think, just to give us a little bit of background, my initially there was this company called It's Never Too Late
Mm-hmm.
that acquired LifeLoop 4 years ago and rebranded on the LifeLoop 3 years ago. And then acquired Link Senior, right? So we're kind of three awesome companies with awesome people joining forces to build. And this is one of the things that intrigues me and really excites me a lot. This idea of building best of breed, like really what tools and technology and best practices that residents, team members, and families want and deserve for this resident experience. I think to your question, there was a number of things that really attract me in the idea. Is one, these three companies were all started by awesome entrepreneurs that really wanted to improve lives of older adults, residents. And so that's very attractive. I think there's something special about what LifeLoop is that more than 30% of our staff has worked in the senior living communities. So deeply embedded in our culture, there's this real understanding of what communities try to do, like what it is to be a care staff, what it is to be on the front line, nights and day, 24/7, being with residents. And then the last thing I would say, which is exciting, is our vision to be very focused on wellness and helping operators deliver the best experience for their residents, especially in the context of value-based care. That's really something that I'm part of it at LifeLoop, and I'm very proud of the work that we're doing there.
And so,
Oh,
so
and one last thing.
yeah.
They only had one French person on staff, so very interesting for me was to be the second person on staff. And that you'll know who I'm talking about.
And so, one of the big things that is hard with engagement is that it's not necessarily, I would say, like the first thing that people think about. How do you envision prescribing engagement in senior living the way clinician prescribe therapies, and what workflows made that real on the floor? How would you see that, or what do you think about that?
I could talk all day long about this, but I'll try to keep it super short. I think the best way to think about it, Alex, is that this is the future and it's happening now. So it's not like this is not like just wondering if ever it's going to happen. It is happening before our eyes. And to explain it in very plain English, I would say that activities is should be the first modality when you want to have an intervention for residents, right? Like for example, if you have somebody living with depression today, unfortunately, a lot of our models and a lot of the way we've been building senior living so far is to prescribe antidepressants, right? Well, we now know for sure that nature or music or being social or even physical exercise works extremely well if you have depression or if you have some level of cognitive impairment. And so the idea is not to say, the clinical side or um, drugs or clinical intervention are bad. They are awesome, they're great, they are essential in many cases. But it's just to say that the first intervention that we ought to consider is something psychosocial in nature, which is activities rather than engagement. And I think, the exciting piece with value-based care is just recognizing that it is very cost efficient. You could save literally thousands of dollars per resident per year if you were able to create a model where these were considered first. And so that's how you get to this idea of quote unquote prescribing engagement.
Yeah, no. I 100% agree with you. And the funny thing is that a couple of weeks ago, I was interviewing somebody at Wagner Construction, which is a senior living construction company based in Pennsylvania. And Amy was telling me that one of the big things that she's seeing now is multi-use room and mental health room, and like
Yep.
all these things that are like really, because she's at kind of like the forefront of what's happening because she's building it. So it's
Yeah,
something that is
yeah.
going to happen, in the next 1 to 2 years or 3 years. But yeah, that's one of the big things. So at least you can be reassured that all the effort that you have made, it's kind of like coming to fruition, and more people are really like doing that. And another funny thing is, I was interviewing Glenn Lewis from Rose Villa in Oregon. So it's
Hmm.
a very advanced, sustainable, forward-thinking senior living neighborhood, because it's not really a community, it's like really a neighborhood where different type of building and everything. They were telling me that they have a boat race every year, and so it's a mix of like the residents and the caregivers that are like, together on the boat. So you have people that are like 80 years old and people that are like 20 something, and they are literally racing. It's like an event every year, and they train for that the whole year. And they also have a swimming pool with a slide. So that when, when I saw that, and I was
Yeah.
like, "You guys have a slide?" He's like, "Yeah, people love it, and it's like it's again, it's how to make people feel better, and with activities and different things." So
Yeah, and there's such a mind shift that needs to occur. Well, that is actually occurring. One example comes to mind, like Alex. There's an awesome company called LifeSpark out of Minnesota. They have more than 50 locations that compete. They call it the Spark League, and they compete like on all like kind of Olympics across all of their communities. But you have no idea the amount of competition. I mean, competition never leaves you, right? You're always competitive. But the amount of competition between these communities is just insane. So, they have this, it's kind of the triathlon thingy. And so it's adapted, but you can cycle, you can run, and there's even like a forklift, like a remote control forklift competition. But and the winners literally win thousands of dollars, but the whole company is like completely culturally reset and so energized by these initiatives. It's
yeah,
there's almost unlimited opportunities for this kind of thing. So it's very exciting.
no, for sure. And so we're here to hear about you, but also to hear about LifeLoop. So I know it's pretty famous company, but can you give us a little bit more explanation on how it works and how people integrate it, and kind of why people should do that? Actually, it's not, we talked about 5,000 communities. It should be like, all of them, basically.
Yes, I mean, obviously, again, I'm biased, but sorry, let me back up. Actually, I'm not biased because the point is we also have awesome competition, right? So I think whether it's us or a competing product, yes, the future, any communities will have some version of LifeLoop, of some version of something. And here's the rationale: is in the way you operate a community, all of these organizations have a tool that helps them manage the clinical side of things, like an electronic health record or a medication management tool. And so think of our category as a way to manage the resident experience, right? When I started Link Senior 15 years ago, the default thing was paper. Now, do you want to manage a resident experience for 60 residents with all different sets of preferences and a physical or cognitive journey with paper? Probably not, because
Yeah.
it's going to suck. You're not going to be able to do it, right? So our type of technology at its core helps you manage that. Now, the big opportunities and what we're thriving for is to help manage all social determinants of health. So at its core, there's engagement, but our platform today can help you manage transportation. It can help you manage communication between residents or staff or families. There's a way to manage piece of the dining experience, and so on and so forth, which has connection with marketing and so on and so on. So it's a very, and I think it's, well, again, I'm biased, but it is, I
You're biased
believe, the
with
most,
LifeLoop. Let's put it
yes,
that way.
but it is the most robust platform to help you manage that. And managing it, just not to manage itself, but also to monetize these experiences that we're delivering to residents. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so one of the things that is always stressful, I would say, for operators is, technology is great, and and there is this app for that, and this app for that, and this app for that, but it's always a stress, I would say, for any operators to say, okay, let's add on another thing, because at the end of the day, an app or technology is great as long as
Yep.
it's used. So how does it typically work when you are onboarding, I would say, a new community, and helping them get started? Because at the end of the day, no matter how good it is, if nobody's using it or nobody wants to use it, it's not going to do any good. So can you walk us through a typical way of like onboarding and how it's actually making everybody's life easier? Because that's the whole point of LifeLoop, is make it better for the residents, but also better for the staff.
Yeah, I think, I think the best way to answer this question, Alex, is to say that we're deeply committed to one simple thing, which is our client success. And so we're not even going to entertain a conversation if we can't get to some form of alignment on, you're Alex, senior living, this is where you are in terms of wellness or resident engagement. How interested are you to being here or evolving there, right? And so think of us, obviously we're a technology company, don't get me wrong, and we love technology. But in the end, what we also are is a partner to help you improve in this journey, right? So if there is this understanding, and we're very good at helping create or partnering to create that understanding, then everything becomes, kind of, I want to say it's that there is work involved, but it becomes rather easy because then you align resources, you define measurable goals, right? Like by within 30 days, we're going to enable this training and you'll see this in the app. And so we have very clear KPIs on where success are. And you can open our app, and if you have 40 buildings, 40 communities, you can see the top, and you can see also the ones that are, kind of struggling for whatever reason, lack of staff, lack of technology. And so I'm proud of the experience and dedication of our teams, but we always remain humble in the idea that we're not perfect and we will create whatever we can to make it successful for our clients. And then just to add to this, I would also say that being the platform that has the more breadth also makes it easier for the people we serve because they have to manage less apps because, again, there's more under a roof. And I will also say that we are the one that's the most integrated. So sometimes it's difficult to have 15 different apps because these apps don't talk to each other. But if you have one central platform that then helps you connect with the others, then everything is much easier to manage.
So it's kind of like an operating software for senior living operators.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
And, and so, that is great to know that like the app is amazing to help residents feel better, be better, because at the end of the day, the point of senior living communities to offer the best, life for the people inside the communities, but also everything has a cost, and we need to make sure that we kind of get a good return on investment, and sales and occupancy and all those things. So do you have a good story, or maybe do you have a number on how using LifeLoop helps have a higher occupancy and easier sales? Because we're on a marketing podcast, so eventually I'm gonna ask about that. So I wanted to see if you have any numbers or any like success story or recent success story of somebody that was struggling and then like went on
Yeah.
LifeLoop and all of a sudden, boom, 95% occupancy.
Yeah. Actually, thanks for asking, Alex. This is one of the things that I think we are the most proud of this year so far is um, on our team, we have an awesome individual by the name of Dr. Lydia Engen, and she's our principal researcher. So she has a lot of experience and of helping us measure the impact of our technology. And so we were able to partner with a great operator called New Perspective Senior Living. And it took us, we put a lot of work into going deep into the data about occupancy and length of stay of all the communities, all the residents, and so on, and then matching that to the usage of our platform. And the awesome thing is, good users of our platform see an extension of length of stay, which is a key metric in
Yeah.
senior living, the length of stay of more than 6 months, right? Which is awesome. One, obviously, because we're very proud to finally be able to measure this. I think the second thing here is this has not been done before. It's the first time ever in the history of senior living that we're able to quantify the effect of resident engagement through the use of our platform. And I would say, Alex, the third thing, which is, you know, kind of very personal for me, is when I started Link Senior years ago, I got certified as an activity director. Like I really love activities, but there's always this big question in activities, which is, what's the impact of our work? And I think whether you subscribe to LifeLoop or not, this kind of study gives um, more than authority, it gives peace of mind and real comfort about how much our work can help. So I think it's obviously very exciting, and yeah, so that study that case study is available on our website. But yeah, 6 months, more than 6 months of length of stay for our users, which is a pretty, um,
Significant. Yeah, no, for sure.
for sure. Yeah.
That's cool. And then I'll put a link on the description so that way people can take a look. And of course, I'm sure LifeLoop is not like a silver bullet. If you have a bad occupancy, there might be just more than activities to fill up. But still, it's like, when you feel like you've optimized everything or you feel like you're doing a good job, having this type of things is always a good idea. And so we were also, I was reading also that LifeLoop is pretty much onto the, AI and all those things. So how are you guys using, because everybody throws AI, everywhere. Oh, AI this, AI that, but how are you guys truly using this to, I would say, helping with the onboarding of residents and also helping the staff? Because to me, what I love about technology is not just technology to replace the work, but it's more to help people, and especially in senior living, help the staff not get rid, but accelerate, I would say, all the paperwork and all the things that
Yeah.
have to be done for, regulation, so that way you have more time with residents. Because at the end of the day, the point is to take care of residents and not paperwork for the state or the federal government.
Yeah. I think so. Obviously, AI is awesome and so on, and so on. But I think in the end, AI or technology or any tool, the way we think about it for senior living is simply that every touch point between a resident and a team member or a family member or even another resident, that is a potential. I believe in magic. Sometimes things can be magical. They can be so good that they can be magical. So I think of all these touch points as an opportunity, right? So where magic can happen. And what does that mean in senior living? It means that all of these touch points are hyper personalized, right? You, Alex, and I are French, so maybe when we're in these communities, there's a little bit of French music or like wine or whatever. But in the end, we'll always be different. And so that need for hyper personalization is essential. And you can't do it without AI. So that's number one. The second thing is, you're right. Just slapping AI on something doesn't work. It needs to be truly weaved in. So we've spent almost the last 24 months or more now, but really thinking strategically, how can it be embedded in everything that we do? And then the last thing I would say, which is obviously where the future is going and where things are getting really exciting, is you can't truly be proactive in wellness unless you use AI, right? So the short one here is, as you know, healthcare, whether it's in France or the US or in many other countries, unfortunately, we're too reactive it's kind of like a sick care system where we wait for people that are to be sick to then treat them. Well, we know where things are going, especially with value-based care, is we want to be more proactive. We want to create intervention or wellness-based plans to make sure that actually maybe the person can never be sick, never get sick. And so to do this, AI is also essential, especially in our line of work.
Yeah, but it's that's for sure that's a big problem, and I'm sure you've read the book Outlive, where
Yeah,
it's about like it's not like 5 years and preventive. It's like 20 years before that you need to start doing things. And I love that idea of like trying to figure out, being more proactive. And but when you say AI, you cannot do it without AI. Is that because there is too much volume and it wouldn't physically be possible to have that all that amount of information and kind of analyzing it and for each resident. So it's basically what you're telling us is AI, what it unlocked is the fact that it can go through all that amount of data and then really have almost like a personal assistant for each person of the community.
100%. And let's back up just a second. Most communities, they have one, maybe 1.5 activity directors for 60 residents.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't, it just, the system doesn't work. That person cannot see 60 residents enough. And to your point, when you go and see that person, it needs to be personalized. So yeah, it's not only the quantity of information and knowledge that this one person needs to have, it's also having all the tools to go and engage the person at the right time with the right engagement. And to your point about Outlive, just if you want to narrow it to senior living or narrow it to aging, we know that social engagement, there was a Rush University study that came out, I think in January, February this year, but basically measures and shows that with social engagement, healthcare costs can be reduced by $500,000 per person, which is huge. But you can extend life by 5 years, and you can also delay Alzheimer's, I mean dementia like Alzheimer's, by 7 years. So it's like a win-win-win-win-win for everyone if you put these measures in place. And to your previous point, you cannot do it without AI.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating that more and more we're getting the tools to prevent or to at least improve, but we're not seeing that you guys can do it in senior living. We can do it because it's managing you're managing your ecosystem, I would say. But really would like to see that on a bigger scale, because it's not too late when you go to a senior living community, but we should think about it like literally from preschool, and really have that.
Yeah,
But I'm saying it's
there's, you
like
know, there's an amazing book. It's an older book, but it sets all the stage for all that we're talking about. It's called a Live Long, Die Short,
which is
and
the idea
kind of
of,
what
of outlive as well, huh?
exactly, yeah, and it's kind of yeah, you can start as early as you want. There's no I mean benefits is for your whole life for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
And then you kind of answered a little bit one of the questions that I love asking, which is what are you exciting about senior living in the next, I would say, like 3 to 5 years?
Besides the whole demographics, the whole, senior living is on its fastest growth projection ever. Besides these fundamentals that obviously we can't change too much of, but still remain exciting. I think I am personally extremely excited by all the massive problems that we're going to have to tackle, all the massive challenges that we're going to grasp in order to make some of these vision reality. And it's not that I love problems. I mean, sometimes big problems are hard to solve, but I just love the challenge of helping senior living providers deliver on their marketing promise today, which is person-centered, person-directed engagement. So a lot of these things we have no idea yet, but we're so dedicated and so passionate that it's. I feel very fortunate to be part of this for sure.
At least you're working for yourself as well. I
Yeah,
mean for yourself,
it's
for your future, it's like soon everybody's
yeah,
gonna be like, I can't wait to be retired going to a senior living communities because it's gonna be like, the best part of of getting old is to have all these cool things. And it's true, like the more, you know, one of the things that I watched recently was Happy Gilmore, and I don't know if you remember that movie, which was the mom of Happy Gilmore. She goes to a retired nursing home for the time that he tries to get the house back and everything, but it was horrible. Like I watched the movie, I don't know, like 25 years ago, something like that, and I rewatched it, and I was like, oh my god, that's horrible. And so I'm happy to see, that before people were dreading, it was really the last resort was to do that. And now
yeah,
it's kind of like people are choosing, which is amazing to see how far the industry has come. So,
100%,
and with
100%.
companies like yours is pretty exciting too, to see that it's not just about dining or medical. It's really about like your day-to-day life, like what happens when you wake up until you go to bed, like how more pleasant your life becomes. And that's a big problem also with the aging population is loneliness.
Yeah,
And so anybody that can afford to go to a senior living community and have cool stuff to do on a daily basis is pretty amazing. And I'm sure that helps also with longevity. So
yeah. But what I find very interesting, and I have a book here right there that I mean I don't know if you can see it, but it's together from he was the Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. Vivek Murthy. But really, one of the very first book to talk about how social isolation is a disease, like it kills us. And what I find really exciting about senior living, Nick did a study with NORC and proved how much senior living works and how much it helps people live their best life. So I think, obviously there's a lot of exciting things about senior living, but what you were saying about improving our future, right? The other day I was with my daughter and she came to the same reflection. She came to this thing of saying, well, you're aging, so you're a little bit selfish here, right? Like you're working for yourself. No, 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 wait, wait. You know what she said? And then she paused and she said, oh, but you're doing it for me as well. Get back to work. And she was like, get back to work. I'm like, this was so sweet. It was awesome. So yeah, there's a little bit of improving everyone's life for sure. Yes.
yeah, that's pretty cool. No, but I'm really excited about what you guys are doing at LifeLoop. It's nice to see that you're all joining forces for the greater good, I would say. And I really wish that all of the senior living communities, sign up day in day out,
Yes.
and so that way, you can have, because the thing is like also if you think about it, your company is only going to get better as you get more data. So it's like basically the more communities sign up with LifeLoop, the better LifeLoop is going to get, which is pretty
100%.
crazy when you think about it. But that's kind of how it's going to work. The more data, the better the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But Charles, yeah, no, it was a great pleasure having you on the podcast. Really excited about what you guys are doing, and looking forward to seeing you at I would say, the next show. Probably
In,
a leading age. I think is the next one.
in Boston. Yeah. We have a big event. Well, we have a very large team going, a lot of different events and so on. So please be in touch. I'd also say that we have a special event around the future of memory care. So please be in touch for that as well. It's going to be
We'll
exciting.
do that, and we'll make sure to take a look at your LinkedIn page.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much for
Charles.
having me.